get notified that I am going live real quick. Live, no, not love. No, thank you, autocorrect. Twitter. Twitter. Let's go to Facebook. This guy. 2 minutes. Title. Classes. Got one viewer on. 6. Oh, there's 6. Sorry about that. I'm trying to teach myself how to see what's on the screen and on my phone at the same time. So it is 7:30. Should be getting started right about now. So last time I was here, it was like 2 weeks ago, something like that. Got 37, 38 minutes into this, computer crashed, and somehow it deleted my the driver to my camera. Couldn't fix it. Couldn't figure out what to do. I tried not reformatting. I tried deleting things, reinstalling things, updating drivers, updating Windows, everything. Talked to IT friends that are on Twitter and on other platforms. None of us could figure it out. Then, like earlier this week, for no reason, the light went on my computer, and it's like the camera's like, "Oh, hi, I'm back." Whatever field trip it went on, not sure. But anyway, so I'm going to go right back through the intro. I'm going to also, I made sure to click save. That way it'll stay up for about 7 days, just in case anyone wants to see it. Anyway, so who am I? My name is Remy. My background is I started as an EMT around 2006. I became a street medic in 2011 with the Occupy movement way back way back. Yeah, so about 14 years ago. That was with Occupy Portland, and then became a paramedic after that in 2013. Became a nurse in 2020, and now I'm a first year medical student. On the degree side, I have my associate's degree in nursing, I have a bachelor's degree in nursing, post baccalaureate certificate in healthcare sciences, and I am currently in school, as I said, I'm a first year student. So that's my background. I've been around a little bit mostly in the emergency medical settings, but also in a few other settings as well, including facility-based. I did infusion nursing for a little bit during COVID, as well as a whole bunch of different operations from quarantine sites, vaccine sites, um, and I did a whole bunch of it. So beyond that, what are the goals here? My goals are to educate you on anything healthcare related, anything going from uh, first aid, bystander aid, all the way to like street medic, EMT paramedic, nursing, and up to medical school students, up to where I've learned. So if it's beyond something that I've learned, not going to talk about it yet. So all the stuff I've learned up until now are things that I will happily talk about, happily teach people. Today, we're going to be talking about intro to street medics. Um, Oh, it chimed. I got a chime. Someone followed me. I can't see the screen. It's too small. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, thanks for joining me, Rosie, by another name. Oh, it's so hard to see. Um, so, just as an FYI, I am not a tech person. I am not a digital content creator. This is all new to me. I am learning as I'm doing this. So, if I seem that I am going a little slow or that I am doing things out of sorts, give me a human being any day. Tell me to do something surgical any day. Totally cool with it. Hand me a computer and say I've got to do a live stream. You get what you get right now up until I learn a new skill set. But anyway, so as I said, today is uh, intro to street medics. So as you've seen my screen name elsewhere, all over the place, random street medic. So what is a street medic? A street medic is a volunteer medical person that goes to protests, um, political events, rallies, uh, community events. We do community outreach. We do mutual aid. And all of that is to say is it's a person that's volunteering their time to provide medical assistance to other people in a whole wide variety of settings. I even did, we even did a whole bunch of stuff during Occupy Sandy when Hurricane Sandy struck New York. A bunch of us went to a whole bunch of different places. I was at Beach 95 hub in Far Rockaway in New York, and I was working out of a trailer that was donated to us by a local EMS organization, and we were plunked right next to the Red Cross at the time. So we were doing a whole lot of everything on the ground, as there weren't that many resources and not too many people were coming in to come and help. So it can be anything from showing up to protests to doing riot medicine, which is a really cool book. I dropped that into my Patreon. Um, to doing homeless outreach, to doing street level wound care if that's something that's within your skill set. It's a whole lot of things. And next question obviously is, well, where do you start? First off, you start by showing up. So if you're doing protests or political things, you show up into activist spaces and you kind of get to know people because you don't want to join an organization or you don't want to build an affinity group with people that you don't actually have an affinity with. That just leads to a bad time. So you want to go out to either community events or you want to go to political events or rallies, and you just kind of want to meet people and find out who you're cool with and who's cool with you. Um, if there are other street medics there, link up with them. That's one of the easiest ways to do it. That's how I did it way back in 2011. I ran into a group that was operating out of the parks that were in Occupy Portland at the time, because there was two parks. There was Lonsdale and Chapman, and they had kind of a tent right there. And I met a whole bunch of people, linked up with them, and within a few days, I was, running around with them, helping out in the encampment sites and helping out with people that were um, sick or injured, or they just needed like band-aids or cough drops, water, food resources, local resources. And towards the end of that, a lot of homeless individuals were coming towards our camp because police and city officials were saying, "Hey, go send them to the Occupy camp." So we're taking on a lot of homeless individuals and helping them with resources as well. So that's a little bit of how I kind of got started. So big part of getting started is, just plugging yourself in and finding a group. There are organizations out there that have their own street medic little program going on, and be it like there's DSAs out there that have some street medics, PSL. There are different um, other organizations which aren't associated with DSA or PSL, um, or they're just standalone medic groups. I'm not going to name who they are on the stream because I haven't talked to them yet, so I don't want to give their name out on my stream without their permission first. That's a big thing. Also, in street medicine is making sure that you have people's permission to do the things that you're doing. So you always want to make sure you have their consent at the time. You don't want to just jump in and do things. So in terms of jumping in, doing things, how do you take a class? So they have street medic classes and street medic workshops, and those things are um, again, through those different organizations. Sometimes they have the community ones where they say, hey, we're going to host a community workshop or a community event and just take in anybody who wants to do it. Um, and they tend to range anywhere between like 40 and 80 hours. They're across like 2 weekends or 4 weekends. Some organizations have you do longer ones, some are maybe a little bit shorter. And before you say, hey, that's 40 hours, my God, that's not enough time. Well, that's enough time to get thanks for joining me, Rex Cool Guy. That is enough time to do things like basic first aid, CPR, talk about harm reduction in terms of like Narcan usage. Um, at 40 to 80 hours is quite a bit. I think lifeguarding is actually either on par with that or maybe a little bit less. EMT basics are, I think, like 300 to 600 hours. So this is all basic things, and you can also learn things as you go. But you take the class over however many weekends that class is offered, and then they'll teach you everything from how to interact with your local community, how to interact with people who are homeless, how to interact with people who are not homeless, who are at whatever event that you're at, how to obtain consent, the difference between things like permission and consent, because there is a difference. Um, and then you go through like your basic first aid things like, how to deal with um, basic wound care, like band-aids or like small cuts and lacerations, and how to do wound cleaning in that regard, how to uh, provide people with resources like, cough drops or basic, everyday medications. And I'm not saying to run out there and start handing out medications to people in a way that's just irresponsible, but I mean things like, hey, like someone says they need a cough drop or someone needs some water, or ibuprofen, Tylenol, things that are over the counter, things that someone would take on a normal everyday basis on their own, and you just happen to be a resource for them. So if someone comes up to you and says, hey, do you have this? Um, Things like carrying granola bars, because one of the things that I've noticed over the years doing a lot of protest medicine things is that uh, protesters will go 110% like this for 12 hours. And then at the very end of it, they go, oh, I forgot to eat. So making sure that you have, again, water, food, and just basic necessities, and just checking in on people. Um, Making sure that you're checking in with the people who are around you, including the person that you're working with, because you should usually, do your street medicing in pairs or more. You don't really do it alone. I know there's going to be a few of you watching the stream that are going to say, hey, I saw you out there alone. Don't do that. Not good. So you want to make sure that uh, you're learning how to do it, and you're doing it through a group that, is reputable and has been out there doing this for a while. Now, there's a difference between groups of people, because some people have absolutely no experience. So you have lay people. Lay people have no experience, kind of looking to bystander bit, and you have medical professionals who have been doing this in a different way in different settings. And so one of the things that you really want to be careful about is, as a layperson, you're covered by Good Sam, or Good Samaritan Act. As a medical professional, you're also covered by Good Samaritan Act, but there are some conditions on that. especially if you're a medical professional, you have to make sure that you're staying within your scope of practice. And if you are a medical professional watching this, you already understand what I mean by that. If you're not, scope of practice just means all the things that you're allowed to do within the context that you're allowed to do it based on what the state says. Am I going to advocate for states? Obviously not. But the rules are the rules, and if you're going to go beyond the scope and beyond the rules that you're of the things that you're allowed to do, you're going to take on that risk on your onesie. No one's going to back you up, and you can't turn around and say, "Well, I was in a street medic capacity," because in that regard, you're not operating in an official state-sanctioned way. You're operating in a community affirmed way, uh, but if something happens, those protections that you would normally have in your professional role are not going to be there, unless you're a physician and you're operating under your own license, and really want to have to have that good faith discussion in terms of like a prosecutor or somebody's civil attorney. Just make sure that you're doing the things that you know how to do, that you've learned how to do within the scope of practice that you are. As a layperson, you're operating on Good Sam, and what Good Sam says is, or Good Samaritan acts, is basically you're taking a reasonable action that another person would have uh, seen as reasonable. So, like doing CPR on a person that is unconscious, unresponsive, and doesn't have a pulse. That's covered under Good Sam. Giving somebody Narcan who is unconscious, they're breathing like one time a minute or barely, their pupils are very pinpoint, and you give them Narcan. That's covered under Good Sam. If you run out there and you think somebody's choking and you put a hole right here and stick a pen barrel through it, the average person is not going to find that to be reasonable. That's never covered by Good Sam. But all the basic things that you're doing for people, as long as you're asking for permission, as long as you can ask them permission. If you can't, you're kind of going by implied consent. Sorry. So you want to make sure that, if you're on the professional side, you're operating within your scope. And if you're on the layperson side, that you're operating within Good Sam. And if you take one of the classes that a lot of these organizations have, they will tell you about Good Sam. Believe me, they're going to talk all about it. Um, so after you're getting all that stuff out of the way, you've taken the class, you've shown up, you found a group that you want to hang with, you have class, you put in your 40, 80, 120 hours. What comes next? I say build a kit. Make sure that you have a kit that fits the things that you're doing. You're going to see a lot of people on the internet swear by buying, these super expensive bags, filling it with everything under the sun. Don't do that. When you go get a kit, make sure the kit makes sense for the things that you're doing. I have some basic trauma things that I always keep with me. Fortunately, they're a little bit far away, so I can't reach them right now. But one of those things, one of those things is right here. So for me, for the stuff that I do, I always carry a pair of shears with me. I have a special set from when I was a paramedic. It's expensive. You don't need this. But if you get a pair of shears, you can get a pair of regular shears for like $2 on Amazon. You get shears, you get things like nitrile gloves. I like putting everything in plastic baggies. It helps keeping my plastic Ziploc bags. It keeps everything dry, keeps everything separate, keeps everything clean. And it helps when you're going through your bag and you're not fumbling through a million things that are everywhere. So if you kind of partition things that way. But things like, again, shears, gloves, Band-Aids, I keep a tourniquet on me at all times, just in case, because you never know. I have chest seals, just in case, because you never know. I keep Narcan on me, because just in case, you never know. And I keep that in my backpack on top of my medic bag. So you want to make sure that you've got the stuff that you absolutely might need in an extreme emergency, that are within the boundaries of what you know how to do. Um, and the rest of it is geared towards the stuff that you're going to be doing. So if you're going to a rally or a protest and it's going to be cold, hand warmers, either hand warmers or foot warmers, or the bigger ones, which are body warmers. Maybe if you're part of an outreach team, bring some extra gloves and some extra socks. Make sure you have some water with you. Make sure you have cough drops or lifesavers. Make sure you have, um, maybe if your bag is big enough, like in one of my bags, I carry a couple of Mylar blankets, which they come in a pack that's like this big. Um, Even I have a first aid blanket, which is a big wool one, which kind of fits into a slot in my bag. And I have a hospital blanket, which is kind of rolled up and tied to the wall of my bag. So I have blankets for cold weather, hot weather stuff. I do carry some blankets just for shade and for a screen. But you, again, water, those, um, those, oh, so sorry. My dad messaged me to say that he was watching. Hi, Dad. Uh, so you want to take things that you're going to use. So in hot weather things, I sometimes keep those cold compresses. The only reason I don't like the cold compresses is because they last like 2 seconds. Pop them, you put them on somewhere, and by the time that you're getting ready to do anything else with them, they're already kind of warm. So I keep a couple of them with me just in case, because one of the things that I've realized in my time doing this is that it's kind of comforting. If you do an action that you're doing something, and a lot of times it's kind of like a little bit of chicken soup, a little bit. So you're doing a thing for them. Oh, they have like their arm hurts a little bit. Crack an ice pack open, put it on their arm, and at least you've done something for them, and they'll feel a little bit better, whether it's placebo or they're actually helping them with the ice pack. But a lot of times people are grateful that you're just there doing that. So you always want to make sure that whatever you're carrying makes sense to carry. My biggest thing is do not carry things that you do not know how to use. Do not carry things that you have not been trained to use. The last, sorry, the worst time to learn how to use something is in an emergency. If you have not learned how to use it, don't carry it unless it's really realistically only going to be there for another person to use. Like if you should learn how to use a tourniquet anyway. But if you don't know how to use it and something happens and you have a tourniquet on you, just run up and say, I've got a tourniquet. And hopefully someone else is going to be there. But other things like, just don't carry anything on you that you've never used before and that you've never seen or watched or learned about. It's just a bad time to learn how to use things is when you're trying to apply it. And I've had that happen to me at one of the hospitals I used to work at. They um, bought a whole bunch of new um, chest drainage. I'm trying to find the way to describe what they are. They're just boxes that are for chest tubes, and they feed into it. And they're called portacaths, um, or pluricaths. I'm sorry. And our hospital changed one of them to a dual chamber one, which had an extra tube. And the four of us that were there on the overnight were scrambling to figure out how to use this on a patient that absolutely had to have a chest tube placed right there. So, as I said, you don't want to be learning how to use something in the moment. It sucks. Trust me. But beyond that, let's go to the chat for a second. I see Music Juice FYI says, "Do I have any recommendations for brands or sources for tourniquets?" Um, North American Rescue. I will be very honest with you that a lot of times tourniquets and certain supplies are a little on the pricey side. Uh, I don't skimp on certain items, and tourniquets is one of those items. You want to make sure that what you're getting is a true tourniquet or a true item that is built and made for the purpose that you're buying it for. And I say that because if you go on Amazon and try and find the cheapest thing that looks like what you need, sometimes what you get are counterfeit items and they can fail you in the moment when you need them the most. So when I was a paramedic, one of the big things that we ran into were these fake cat tourniquets that were coming in from other countries, and they would break when you're trying to use them. Either the windlass would break, or the little clips on them would break, and that it just sucked because then we were improvising with things like cravats and screwdrivers, and that's just not a good look to roll into a hospital. At least on our side, as professional paramedics, the worst thing to do is roll up with something improvised, and they're like, "Why did you do that? Why didn't you just use the thing?" And then you show the thing that's broken, and they're like, "Why do you have broken equipment?" So North American Rescue has um, a lot of decent supplies. They're a little bit on the pricier side. There is an organization out there that also gets their things from North American Rescue. It is A Better Way 2A. They're a wonderful group of individuals. Um, they have stuff on their website if you go to it. In fact, give me 1 second. I'm just going to I will drop them into the chat. Give me 2 seconds, because I'll just do that right now. I'm going to drop them into the chat. This is a spool ad on me. Thank God. I'm gonna that's a better way 2A. This is this is North American Rescue. All right, so I dropped those two into the chat for you. Actually, oh, you're busy. No. Can you grab me my tourniquet real quick? It's out of the front of my back. It's on the front bottom pouch of my backpack. My spouse is over here. So, so I'll show you what I carry. And you can just get the box of Narcan too, because I can talk about that at the same time. This is in the same place. Alrighty. All right, so I keep my tourniquet in a carry case. It's in my backpack like this, just in case I need to take it out and put it on something like my belt. I don't even remember where I got this. I don't remember where I got this part. I think this was a gift from somebody. So, but oh god, all right. So this is the tourniquet that I carry. It's already mostly staged. So way back when, things that were breaking were things like this piece right here would snap, or this piece, which retains your windlass right here. Like one of these parts would break. Sometimes a buck would snap, and that's kind of scary because the whole thing just pops on you. Uh, so yeah, so there's like some plastic parts. So you just want to make sure that you're getting um, actual, verified equipment from reputable dealers, because the last thing you want is this thing to fail on you and when you need it the most. And in my experience, they have before with some of the counterfeit stuff, and a lot of other street medics, a lot of other paramedics, people who do areas of conflict and austere environments, they will tell you that some of those things that you think you're getting like a really good deal on some really cheap stuff, and yeah, it's cheap, and then they break. And speaking of other things to add, speaking of some other things to add to your kit, it doesn't have to necessarily be a kit, just on your person. So I carry Narcan on me at all times. So I have one in my backpack. I have one in my street medic kit. Sorry about that. So you have these. These are very easy to use. I'm going to put it up here. So these are incredibly easy to use. And in the context of someone having an opioid overdose, the big thing is just getting it in there and squeeze. You can pick these up depending on the state. Most states, in my experience, most states, you can just get this over the counter. You can pay for it out of pocket. Might be a little expensive if you do it that way. A lot of insurance companies will help pay for this. So if you go to your pharmacist, you can go talk to them about this. They'll give you a little sheet of paper sometimes. You can ask them how to use it, and they will teach you right then and there how to use it. I can teach you right now how to use it. That little white top right here, that goes right up the person's nose. This, and block the other nostril. And then this little red plunger, push it all the way. And that is how you use Narcan. I will get into, in another episode, the full thing on Narcan usage. But you can pick these up at pharmacies. A lot of states have a Department of Health team that has free Narcan. There's places that have like harm reduction vending machines that have Narcan, syringes. Some of them have like sharps containers so you can use syringes in there. Um, some of them have fentanyl testing strips. The big thing though, I just keep that stuff on me just in case. You never know. Um, if you come across somebody who's not breathing or they're breathing really, really slow, you can't wake them up. You look at their eyes and their pupils are very, very, very tiny, and you're trying really hard to wake them up and you've got nothing. Give them some Narcan. Uh, Sometimes I tell people, the big thing you really want to do is try and get them to breathe again. On one hand, I would love for everybody to be altruistic and magnanimous enough to give people a rescue breath or two to at least breathe for them for a minute. I know that that's not going to happen a lot because for various reasons, from their own personal infection control, COVID cautiousness, I keep a CPR mask on me that I can use as a face shield for them to give somebody a rescue breath. Um, but at the very least, at least just carry it on you so you can give them a fighting shot of coming back. But that's just some of the, like the basic things that I keep on me. But as far as meeting up with people, building affinity with the group, another group, taking a class, um, making sure you're staying within the boundaries of what you've learned, and making sure you have your own equipment to use, or you have group equipment, either donations or whatever. That's pretty much like your introduction to being a street medic. I'm going to hang out for a little bit. If anybody has any questions, I'm going to pop in and out of the chat here. So if anyone has any other questions about, where to start, what to do, what kind of stuff is out there, like it's not just, as I said, it's not just it's not just protests, it's not just riots and all that stuff's the quote unquote the fun stuff. Um, it's sometimes it's going out into your communities with a wheelbarrow full of food that either people have pre-made. Like Food Not Bombs does a lot of outreach into different communities in terms of providing like food assistance. Um, Sometimes doing things like bringing socks, hand warmers, clothing. So when I was in Providence with the Rhode Island John Brown Gun Club, a lot of what we used to do, either once a week or multiple times a week, was we would go out there. I would carry medical equipment with me, but everyone else would have bags full of hygiene kits that we built out of things like we would have wet, like small packages of wet wipes, hand sanitizer, um, toothpaste, mouthwash, um, extra socks. Um, we would go to various hotels or if we knew people that were uh, in hotels that were friends, we would ask them to get the all those little toiletries of soap and shampoo and conditioner and bring them back unopened. And we put those in those kits just in case people find a place to go get a shower, either at a shelter or if they find housing, they have something to use. And then we have like wrap sandwiches and water. And sometimes if people are out and about, there was a person that used to bring this thing of coffee. It was like a big um, oh, I don't remember the materials. It's kind of like this plastic, but they bring hot coffee and hot chocolate while we were out and about. So sometimes it's doing things like that. One of the things that I was involved in 2020 um, was at the beginning of the pandemic, as people were being told to stay home, and states obviously were not going to be taking care of people. Uh, a handful of us just kind of banded together and said, we're gonna start taking care of our neighbors. So we created like these mutual aid group on Facebook and linked in with a whole bunch of different organizations, like the Milagros Project and Project. What was the one that was doing groceries? Was it Stand Up or I don't remember. Sheesh. Anyway, so there was the Milagros Project was making like these. They were using their kitchen and banging out like God thousands of meals a week. Um, and this other group was you could just drive up and they pop your trunk open and they would drop in 2 bags of groceries for you. Um, we had people like if you weren't feeling well, people were running errands. If you needed like just household essentials that you had that someone else didn't, people were asking, and we were just sharing what we had. We did the same thing for when there was that shortage of infant formula. It was that um, there was this big shortage, and so we had someone send us a case from Canada. Um, and it arrived at my place and I rushed this thing into another state to someone who needed like a specialized formula that they just couldn't get. So we were just doing all this stuff and that's just part of it. Like it's as I said, it's not just one thing, it's a lot of different things and everyone has a different role. Nobody has to do just like no one has to feel like boxed into like, oh well, I'm only good enough for this. Like it doesn't have to be that. And if that's all you want to do, that's fine. Like there's nothing that says you have to go out and do all this stuff that is beyond your risk profile or is beyond your level of comfort. But that's basically it. So, anyone have any questions? I've hit the the 37-minute mark. This is where my computer crashed last time. So hopefully that's not going to happen again. Oh, actually, what I am going to do, I am going to plug my Patreon, and I'm going to talk about my Patreon account. So pop this into the chat too, because I don't know how to put this on my screen just yet, and I don't want to risk. I don't want to risk messing anything up just yet until I at least get far enough into this where, yeah. So I'm going to learn all that. So anyway, into the chat, I put my Patreon account. The goal for Patreon, which is part of the goal for the Twitch channel, and eventually I'm going to redo my YouTube channel. The goal for this is I want to provide medical and healthcare education to people who need it, either lay people, bystanders, um, or medical professionals, licensed professionals, and students. And I want to do this for free. I want to make it accessible, and I just want to get it out there for people who need it. The subscription to the Patreon is free. All the content that is there is free. It's going to be accessible to anybody. The only thing that subscription does is it boosts my visibility just a little bit. So if you subscribe, it makes me a little bit more visible to people on Patreon, and it makes me a little more searchable. Sorry, I have the hiccups and burps at the same time. Um, there is a paid option that is not required. It is just an optional thing for people. As a med student, I'm not really allowed to work, not even on the down low, uh, because also on top of everything else, there's not a lot of time. My days generally start at 8 a.m. and they go to like 5, 6 o'clock in the 5, 6 o'clock at night, and then I've got studying I have to get done. There's just not a lot of time there. So um, one of the things that I'm doing is on top of everything else, if you like the stuff that I put out, if it's useful to you and you feel that you want to support me in my goal to get this information out to other people, be it just regular first aid to bystanders, trauma, like um, stop the bleed stuff, Narcan usage, street medicing, learning how to be an EMT basic and where to start there, learning how to be a paramedic, going from EMT into paramedic, how to start as a nurse, where to go, how to do it, the cheapest options, the best options to be a nurse, how to get to med school, all the stuff that's in med school. That stuff I want to make accessible. So if you like that goal, if you find it helpful and you want to help me out, you can go for the paid option. I think I started at like $5. There's been some people that like do the paid option, $20. Um, it goes out to me every month. I'm kind of hoping I would love to eventually get like 1,000 paid subscribers. Why? Because that gives me an income, so that way I'm not struggling so hard as a med student. Um, People think medical students are, um, you know, don't have to worry about finances. I can attest for the fact that the amount that you get in financial aid for medical school is not that much. And you run out real quick, especially if you have like one or two emergency anythings. You don't make it to the end of your semester and you're struggling. So that's for me. Um, Again, all that stuff though is free. Like, you don't have to pay in order to use it, in order to look at it as I go. All the paid side is just to help me out, and that's it. Bumbling Busby. Hey, thanks for joining me. So I just finished talking about the just finished talking about all the intro level stuff. I can give a quick shotgun blast as to what I covered, if that would be helpful to you. Um, so basically, I talked about, yes, I do have a Twitch. Um, I posted this up on Blue Sky. I posted this on Twitter. I am streaming here because I don't know why. I just picked this place because this was easiest to me. I've used OBS before and figured, I could try and learn this way. I do have a YouTube channel, but as I said, I'm gonna kind of delete some stuff off there and remake it, make it look a little bit better. There's a few things on there I want to fix. There's something I said about tourniquet usage, which isn't super duper accurate. But in terms of what I covered today, I talked about what a street medic is, and the shortest version of that is it's just a person who does volunteer medical assistance, either in their community for like community aid or mutual aid, homeless outreach kind of stuff, all the way to things like going to protests, riots, political events, rallies, and they just provide medical assistance on a volunteer basis. I don't know if there's anyone out there who does paid stuff. I've never done anything paid. I've never worked with anybody who's done anything paid. So I've never seen it. That doesn't mean they're not there. It's just that most of us, if not the super majority of us out there, are generally volunteers. I know some people out there have like Venmo, Cash App stuff, just if anyone wants to tip them or help them. That's mostly just to support us with getting equipment and restocking. It's not a paid thing. As for where to start, what I had said earlier was, you just show up to things like uh, political activities or into community groups, and you just start building bridges and building networking. There, you start kind of plugging in with people who you have an affinity with. Hence, you start building an affinity group. And I say this because you want to be organizing and you want to be working with people who you share similar philosophies with. If you don't have another option, you can try and get in with people who have similar-ish beliefs with you, but you really don't want to be going and putting yourself out there into a place where you're not comfortable with people, they're not comfortable with you, you don't like each other, you don't like each other's beliefs, and you clash. You don't want to be operating in that kind of space. It sucks for you, it sucks for them, and it kind of puts the whole thing at risk, at least the whole thing you're trying to do at risk. So that's kind of like how you start, is you just kind of, you find a group, and then you find if there are street medics around, great, link in with them. A lot of street medics are more than happy to tell you how to get to where they got. If you can't find local street medics, find a local political group, be it, and this is not me endorsing any political group. It's just groups that I happen to know have popped up, and had some street medics in it. Groups like DSA, groups like PSL. I know there used to be like Redneck Revolt. I don't know how active that network is anymore, or the John Brown Gun Club. Again, don't know how active those networks are anymore. But some of these groups have their own street medics, and they'll be happy to tell you how to do it. After you find a group, take a class. There are street medic workshops in different places all around the country. They're usually things like they're like 40 to 80 hours, so it's over the span of like usually like 2 to 4 weekends. Um, and they'll cover things like, talking about consent, gaining permission versus consent, basic first aid, harm reduction, like things like Narcan usage. Um, they talk about, how to interact with people in your community, which is a very important skill set to have. I have met people who don't have that kind of skill set and the way they engage other people is very discomforting and I don't like using the term customer service um, because we're not talking about customers and there's no financial or economic interactions. But when we talk about things like the ability to comfort another person using your words and the ability to assess people in a way that is not discomforting to them or scary to them or making them feel worse is a skill set that is very important. And they talk about things like that in these classes. After you do your classes, you do your 40 to 80 to 120 hours, whatever kind of thing that they've got going on. Um, I say build a kit. They'll help you with that. They'll talk to you about it. But me personally, there are some must-haves that I always keep in my kit, regardless of what, regardless of what it is I'm going to be doing. I always keep shears on me. Something on the screen so I can see what I'm doing. I always keep my shears on me. My shears allow me to access them in the event that I need to either cut boxes or clothing. This one has a ring cutter on it. You don't have to buy this. This is just something I've had since I was a paramedic. These are expensive. Don't buy these unless you really need them or unless you really, really want them. You can get a good pair of shears for like $2. And yes, every pair of shears that I've ever used can cut through a penny. Everyone does it. The first time I get a pair of shears, they're always excited. They're like, look what I can do. Snip. Other things that I tell people to get, tourniquets. I did put in the chat where you can get tourniquets, either through like a Better Way 2A or North American Rescue. They're a little bit pricey, but for tourniquets, I don't like skimping. I don't like getting cheap ones because you run the risk of getting a counterfeit one and they break. You don't want your equipment to break on you when you need it the most. Usually what breaks is the windlass, which is the little stick right here, or some of the other plastic parts, including these parts here, which are meant to hold the windlass. You just want to make sure that you're getting it from somewhere reputable and that it's not going to break on you in your moment of need. The last thing that like always carry on me, Narcan. You can get this at your local pharmacy. You can either pay out of pocket for it. You can get your insurance to pay for it. Sometimes your state Department of Health will have programs where they hand this stuff out. There are organizations, a lot of community health clinics um, have links in and programs. Some of them have like harm reduction vending machines, which I think are awesome. So learning how to use this is extremely important. Having it on you is extremely important because needing it and not having it sucks. So, and the last thing I touched on um, was just the differentiating between a layperson and a healthcare professional in terms of getting into street medicing. Um, as a layperson and as a healthcare professional, you're covered both by Good Samaritan laws. And all Good Sam says is basically if you're acting in good faith to provide aid to another person in a manner which is reasonable to another person, that you are not liable in terms of that you can always be sued. Anybody can sue you. Whether or not they're successful just has to do with whether or not what you did was reasonable. So doing CPR on a person who has no pulse, they're not breathing, they're not responsive. CPR is reasonable. Good Sam covers it. You come across a person who is not breathing and their pupils are pinpoint and you can't shake them awake. Even the Narcan is reasonable. That is a reasonable action. You come across somebody who's choking, you give them the Heimlich maneuver. That's a reasonable action. You poke a hole in their neck and stick a pen barrel in it because you saw it in a movie. That's not a reasonable action. You're not covered by Good Sam. On the professional side, you want to make sure that you're staying within your scope of practice. And if you are a healthcare professional, you know exactly what that means. If you're not a healthcare professional, scope of practice just means what the state says is within your skill set and within the boundaries of your job. Don't go out there intubating people if that's not part of your job. I wouldn't do that anyway, just because if you're a street medic, you're not covered uh, in the same way that you would be covered in your professional capacity. So you want to be doing things that are just kind of, it's reasonable for what you're doing at the time, and save all the other like heroic things for like extreme circumstances. And that's kind of where I left things off. So let's go back to this. So stopped the lead training one day. I was bored and looking for things to do. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff to bleed things. And yes, like there's a lot of really good mutual aid and community aid stuff in queer communities. Um, and I did a first aid class uh, in a local in the space above, as you said, a leather bar. And I did a whole community first aid class, and then we talked about the context of like the community that I was in. So yeah, you can get some pretty good classes around there sometimes. Um, Yep, there's local street medic groups out there. They give classes. I don't know how often they are, but that's a thing that they can just tell you about. Um, oh, my screen um, are there any supplies in my kit that I could safely get for cheaper versions? Yeah, um, band-aids. You can get band-aids, um, 4x4 dressings, and to preface this, always build your kit for the things you're going to need it for. Don't put a whole bunch of things in there that you're not going to need, because one, it just gets in the way, and two, um, did my widget die on me? No. Okay, it's still there. Ooh. Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry, I thought my widget died. Um, don't put things in there that you're not going to use. Don't put things in there that you don't know how to use, and or that you've only used once and never trained on. The last thing you want to do is pull something out of your bag when you need it and not know how to use it and try to learn while you're putting it on. But as far as cheaper things go, gauze rolls, 2x2. Well, I don't really use 2x2s. Gauze rolls, 4x4s, ABD pads. Um, if you can get people to donate like hospital blankets, gloves, uh, just going into a healthcare place is asking, hey, can I get a fistful of nitrile gloves that fit me and put them in like a plastic Ziploc baggie. Um, you can get like a bag of lifesavers from like a dollar store. You can go into a dollar store into the first aid section and just start pulling things from there. So the stuff that like you don't have to worry about breaking, um, absolutely. Stuff that like if it breaks and it's not a critical item, go to a dollar store and just start plucking things out of there. The only stuff that you want to make sure that you're actually spending your money on in terms of quality and making sure uh, that it's not going to break on you are things that are critical items, be it like tourniquets, chest seals, um, things of that nature. Because if those fail, you're in a bad spot. And I would say get a decent-ish backpack. Um, you can get a backpack that'll fall apart on you. Uh, but you're never guaranteed to know where it's going to fall apart. So you don't want to be running or doing something really important and have that thing just blow wide open on you, or a zipper break and now you can't get into the bag. So getting certain kinds of equipment is kind of important. You want to make sure that that stuff you're putting in, um, you're saving up for that. Try to see if I answered anything. Is there anything that would put me off from getting involved with a street medic group besides political agreements? Disagreements. So to preface this, the reason that the reason that I call myself random street medic is that I tend to operate a little autonomously, and I bounce between groups. But the groups that I bounce between are groups that I know personally. Um, I've worked with in different places. Be it like, for example, I've run into people that I've worked with in Philadelphia at events or actions, and same thing with Portland, Oregon, or Seattle, Washington, um, or Boston, or New York City. So there's a lot of groups that I've linked in with. Um, if I feel like you're a hazard or a risk to other people. So there was an individual during the George Floyd uprisings, um, and someone had come up to us and said that they weren't feeling well and that they had diabetes. And as I was assessing them, they were a little bit out of it. They were sweating. They had a little bit of slurred speech. They their coordination was a little bit off, which yeah, that can be a sign of diabetes. I did not have a glucometer on me. Another item to have, by the way. I did not have a glucometer on me, and I was trying to see if I can find someone who had a glucometer on them. And there was an individual who said, "Oh, I have insulin in my gear," and I was super not comfortable with that. And so they were really pushy. They were trying to like wedge themselves in and be like, "Hey, I've got insulin for you." And like two of us were like, "No, no, no, don't do this." And someone finally came back with a glucometer, and their blood sugar was like 60, which is low. Um, if that person had given them insulin, they probably would have gone into um, a diabetic like shock or coma or an insulin shock, and that's fatal, especially in circumstances where you don't have an IV on them and you don't have the ability to regain tight blood sugar control or tight glucose control. So, like, if I think that you're dangerous, or I think that you're not um, prepared, those are people I probably don't want to um, work with. There are organizations who I personally won't work with, and that's just a thing for me, because we just have a very big disagreement between our philosophies, um, in terms of not just political, but how like they go about. Um, yeah, so blood sugar is 60 in the U.S. That's we use um, deciliters. I think it's milligrams per deciliter. So that's our yeah, no, no, no. In here in the United States, milligram per deciliter. Um, over you, I think you use was it millimoles? Um, so yeah, so if I feel like you're dangerous, or you're going to do something which is unsafe, those are things where I may not want to work with you. New people, I'm totally okay with working with. I'm fine with that because I'm happy to teach as we go, and that's how a lot of us learn in medical fields is we learn on the job. So it doesn't make any sense to not extend that into street medic sides where okay, you've done 40 hours of this workshop. I'm not going to expect you to hit the ground running in a way that makes it feel like you've been doing this for 20 years. I'm not going to have that expectation. But as far as other things, um, it's most of the stuff for me is political. Um, I will work with a lot of people. I will work with a lot of groups. I will not work with people that put me at risk. I will not work with people or organizations that are against my beliefs. Like I'm not going to, obviously, I'm not going to shack up with the Proud Boys. I'm not going to hitch myself with fascists. I'm not going to be like hitching myself up with people that are super pro cop, or even like slightly pro cop. I'm not going to hitch myself with people like that invite cops into our communities. I'm not going to do that. Other stuff is just kind of just like it's really just behavioral, and maybe just like some organizational differences that I may join up with you on an autonomous way, but I'm not going to be like, hey, I'm actually part of this group. I'm not going to do that. Um, so it's kind of just like a personal thing for me. And I think that's a personal thing for other people. It's just, I would find a group that you are comfortable with, that you share your some philosophical beliefs with. And I don't mean just like politically, I mean like, you know, what is your personal beliefs in terms of, how you want to engage your community? Um, and find groups that are in that same like ballpark. Like, do you want to be in a group that focuses more on um, certain autonomous actions that are more adventuristic? Do you want to be part of a group that works very specifically with a specific population within your community, either be it like groups that struggle with poverty, or talk about uh, like Surge, where you kind of push against, uh, where you make local efforts to push against racism and racial injustice and pursue racial justice, where you want to do like homeless outreach. So it's just kind of like when I say like finding certain groups, like I find a group that is something that finding a group that is comfortable with you and that you are comfortable with them, and that kind of fits into your um, the infrastructure or the framework that you want to work with in terms of the things that you want to do and accomplish as a street medic. If that's a helpful thing. I don't know if I answered your question. Absolutely, anytime. Um, so we've been going about an hour from what my stream says. Does anybody have any other questions that I can answer for you? Also, I apologize for the froggy voice. Um, in school, we talk a lot, and we are expected to answer a lot of questions in a lot of depth. Also, today was donor lab, so it was a lot of me wearing a P100 mask in a room that's filled with formaldehyde. So I'm a little froggy, but yeah, if anyone has any more questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'll stay on for like another five-ish minutes. Then I will hop off and eat and probably watch a horror movie or something and decompress from this week. Yeah, anytime. That's what I'm here for. As I said, like I started this. I started this because I want to get people interested in the things that I've done, and I want to help people get to either where I am or get to people where they want to go. Either in like activism settings or even professional settings. So if people want to learn about being an EMT, paramedic, nurse, how to get to med school, how to navigate nursing schools or paramedic schools, all about it. And I want to make that accessible to people. I think this next coming Friday, I'm actually probably going to do a pharmacology lecture for some of my classmates, uh, which is a little risky because I tend not to try. I try to not have an overlap between my professional and school things and my political stuff, but I think that I'm going to be pretty safe there. Um, so I'm probably going to do like an in-depth pharmacology review on next Friday because that's going to be our progress test. Anybody's welcome to join. I'm happy to teach people that stuff. It may be a little confusing, so I'm probably going to start from like um, a mid-level and then ramp up from there. But we'll see. We'll see what I have time for, what I have the energy for. Yeah, if you want to join, I'll happy. As I said, anybody can attend. I'm not going to turn anybody away, and you can ask questions in the chat if you want, and I will do my best to answer them. Uh, I'm trying to think of what pharmacology is going to be on there. It doesn't matter. I'll put it up on. I'll probably put it up on my Patreon to talk about it. If you are not on my Patreon, I do recommend following it, just because it will notify you when I make a new post. It will basically just say, "Hey, this is what I'm going to be talking about." It'll also tell you basically anytime I make a new post, and I'm going to be doing my live streams or if I'm putting up content there. Oh, if you're interested in the street medic stuff, I did put in my recent Patreon post, I did put the uh, Riot Medicine book link on there. It is free for download. That was made by a friend of mine some years ago. It was kind of like this open source project by him and a whole bunch of other people. I think he's out in Germany, is where he was during some of the big riots that were out in that direction. And it's an amazing book. So it's rather lengthy and rather long, but I definitely do recommend it if it's something that you're interested in. I would check it out. But and yeah, so I put that link in the recent post on my Patreon. But if anyone has any more questions or there's no other questions, I will be signing off. At some point, I would like to teach myself how to do like an outro to actually have like some neat music or something to just plug in and be like, bye, instead of just having like an awkward like Paul moment for the movie Paul, where it's just the the spaceship taking off extra slow. But nobody has any more questions. I hope everyone else has a good night. I had a good chat. And if you do have questions, feel free to send me a message either on my Patreon. I think you can message here. Uh, I think I meant to say hi to Rex Cool Guy. I don't remember if I did or not. If I didn't, hi Rex Cool Guy. I think I forgot to do that. But anyway, yeah, so you can send me a message. I think you can send me a message here. If not, you can find me on Blue Sky, Twitter, my Patreon, anywhere out there. But anyway, hope everyone has a good night. And as I said, hit me up.